Hi, my name is Craig Levin, and I'm a management consultant, and this is my very first video post on LinkedIn. I've been actively engaged on social media platforms, especially LinkedIn, for about a year, and I've gained so much in my life by listening to and engaging in the thoughts and the comments and the experiences and advice of so many professionals like myself who post on this medium. I've been thinking about posting a video for months and avoided it for a list of reasons. None of them were really good reasons, so I'm doing it now. Somebody I follow on LinkedIn asked the question, if there was a 60-minute talk that I could give unscripted, what would I talk about? And throughout my career, I have taught and mentored others on topics that I'm really passionate about, especially in the realm of business and finance. And that LinkedIn post pushed me to do this here as well in an open forum. A bit about me. The firm that I founded is 3D Consulting, and we assist business owners and operators increase their cash flow and solve other business challenges through superior planning, analysis, and execution. My background is almost entirely in corporate America, but I took a serious entrepreneurial turn in the past 5 years, and I helped out the founder of an adult use cannabis brand build a market-leading business in Washington and then expanded it into Oregon and Colorado. There are tons of fascinating stories and lessons that came from those experiences, as well as my experiences in corporate America. And throughout this series of video lessons, I'll share a lot of those with you. Today's topic is nowhere near 60 minutes, but it is a high level and brief look at how I approach analyzing a business when I'm first asked to help. There are different approaches to looking at a business for the first time, and a lot depends on the immediate circumstances. For instance, I like to start by observing the big picture, like what size is the company based on revenue, employees, capacity, and so forth. I like to know how the company got its start and what the goals of the owners are and where they believe the most impactful problems lie. However, I don't always have that luxury. It's a funny thing about finances. Most business owners and operators can talk for hours about their products, their services, the market strategy, and so on. But when it comes to their finances, they don't want to see or hear anything having to do with their financial position. Until, of course, they need help acquiring a loan, or they need to file their taxes, and their bookkeeping system consists of a shoebox full of 3 years of receipts and post-it notes. So in those cases, there's usually no time to discuss the big picture and only deal with the immediate challenge at hand, like catching up on 3 years of bookkeeping. So piece of advice number 1, get good bookkeeping services. It adds value to your business and it instills confidence in creditors and potential investors. But back to how I initially approach assessing a business. All of what I pay attention to initially is contained in the past financial reports for the business. These reports are more important to me than any other items like descriptions of the business, lists of customers, insights about the industry, because really the past, present, and future of the business can all be found in those numbers, and they tend to reveal the most truth and reality of the business if you know where to look. So first, I look at the top line trend, and the top line is revenue, which is presented on the income statement or the profit and loss report above the cost of goods sold. The more past history of revenue that you can see, the better. 3 years of revenue history is great, but the past 12 months is good enough in most cases. So here are some important indicators and inquiries that will flow from those numbers. Is this company in a growth mode? Is it stagnating or in decline according to the trend? When did any significant increases or decreases in the trend begin and why? And is there significant and consistent seasonality in this business? So these trends that you can observe and the conclusions that you can draw from them will identify which stage the business is currently in. Is it a startup? Is it established with consistent cash flow? Is it a turnaround, or it might even be a wind down? That's the situation where you might have to think about liquidating the assets. Second, I look at the gross margin. This is the remainder of the revenue that exists after it pays for the direct materials and the goods and the labor and any other costs which produce the goods or services that you sold. This is not the textbook definition of gross margin, but it makes intuitive sense that the revenue must cover a lot of expenses before it hopefully leaves you with any profits in the end. So here are some indicators and conclusions that will flow from looking at the gross margin. What percent of revenue is the gross margin? Is it increasing or decreasing over time? What are the biggest components of your COGS? And how are those changing over time? And is the gross margin enough to cover your additional operating expenses? So these trends will indicate where and why some of your past successes and challenges with profitability and cash flow occurred, and ultimately whether any increase in sales is improving or depleting your bottom line. Lastly, on the income statement, I look at operating expenses, which are sometimes labeled as selling, general, and administrative expenses, or SG&A. These costs include things like advertising, office supplies, sales wages and commissions, shipping, subscriptions, travel, and so on. These are generally, necessary for the operation of the business, but they're not directly attributable to the creation of the goods and services that you're selling. In order for your company to be profitable, revenue needs to filter down through these expenses and finally leave you with a positive number. This is where a lot of your discretionary spending shows up in the SG&A. There's, if you have opportunities to reduce non-value adding expenses, you'll probably find most of them in SG&A. And I always tell business owners that the SG&A should not include the living expenses of the owners. I've seen that a few times, and I always advise to clean that up as quickly as possible. So by looking at the financials, you can quickly tell if this company is growing or declining, where the biggest expenses are dragging down the business, and whether the business is generally healthy and profitable. Thanks for joining me on this first video entry. The next episode will delve a little bit deeper into the income statement and how to understand the business even more deeply. I look forward to any feedback you have. Please enter them in the comments. Thanks.